Good morning, everybody that is joining us for this session this morning. We're just going to give everybody a few minutes to get into the session before we kick off. But thank you for taking the time to join us. Just a couple of housekeeping bits and pieces. We will be done, I would imagine, in about 45 minutes for you this morning. We have the Q&A box. We would love questions. Ben and I are desperate to answer those probing questions that you have as we go through the session this morning. We also have a chat box, so do feel free to pop something in the chat to let us know that firstly you can hear me, and secondly that you can see Ben and I on the screen. That would be really helpful to us. So we have people coming in, so that's great. Let's start thinking about kicking off. So introductions for those that don't know me. My name is Will Farnell. I'm founder of Farnell Clark, an accounting firm in Norfolk, and also co-founder of AAP Advisory Plus. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Ben, CEO and co-founder of Timworks. Good morning, Ben. Would you kindly just give everybody a quick introduction on who you are?
Absolutely, and good morning, Will, and thanks for having me. Big fan of the webinar, so we're happy to be on that side of the screen this time. So my name is Ben. I'm the CEO and founder of Timworks, originally from France, as you can probably hear, but been living in the UK for a long time now. Started my career working at Google, where I built and rolled out products for SMEs in the UK and in Europe, and then spent more time building a business in the hospitality industry, building a messenger platform for restaurants and suppliers to be able to trade and exchange documents. And during that time in the hospitality industry, I got in touch with a lot of accountants and finance managers who told me about the problems that they were facing with client communication, which planted the seed for Timworks and the product that we're building now.
Excellent, thank you, and we'll come on to what that is in just a moment, Ben. But in terms of what we're going to cover, I'm really excited about this session. Those that have joined these sessions before or heard me speak at various events will know that I bang on quite a lot about increasing client touch points, better quality communications with our clients, delivering greater client experiences. So as soon as we start thinking about different ways that we can communicate both inbound and outbound with our clients, I get quite excited about these conversations. So I'm really pleased that Ben's joining us today. And these are the things we're going to cover off in the session. So firstly, what are the challenges of managing effective client communications? Because having client communication is dead easy, but how do we make sure that it's effective and efficient? What are the pain points that firms suffer relying on email or losing track of phone calls or whatever? Why is it so important for us to be able to capture those communications from a risk management point of view, from making sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do for our clients? And I'm sure that all of you that are listening in here will have gone through that process of, well, how do we stop being so dependent on email? We have tools like Teams and Slack and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and everything else. Are these genuine options? And Ben's certainly going to share some of the pros and cons of those tools during the session today. Naturally, we're going to talk about what Timworks has done in terms of building a solution to overcome those pain points, make the communication really effective, capture what it is we need, and hopefully overcome some of the weaknesses and challenges of alternative tools like WhatsApp and so on. And then I really hope we've got time for some question and answers. Ben is going to give a brief overview of how Timworks works. So we'll do that as well. So hopefully that's okay with everybody. Ben, do you want to tell us kind of what's Timworks? Where did it come from? You touched on the fact you've done this in other sectors, but why accountants, and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Timworks is a collaboration platform for accountancy firms and their clients. And the twist that we bring to the market, or when the product hinges around, is a very simple chat interface that allows the client and the accountancy firm to exchange documents and resolve queries in a way that is scalable for the accountancy firm who might manage dozens or hundreds of clients. And we need to provide the accountancy firm with a way to not miss any of these communications, but also be able to have clarity on what needs to be done for each and every single client that they have on the platform. And on the client side, the app revolves around a very simple mobile app that looks and feels exactly like other chat apps that your clients love to use and know how to use, the likes of WhatsApp, not to name any, and that essentially allows them to have a clear view on what is needed from them on your side, how they can help you with the queries that you need from them, and generally how they can start collaborating with you instead of being on the receiving end of numerous endless email threads that they lost track of.
Excellent. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to stop sharing screen here, and we're going to dive into to some of these pain points, because I mean, clearly there's great technology in the marketplace for accountants and bookkeepers now across a whole range of categories. And the principle, of course, is that you guys are all really clever, and you spot a pain point for firms, and you go away and you try and build a solution to tackle those pain points. So when it comes to this kind of managing effective client communication, what are the challenges? What are the typical pain points that you see firms having that made you think that there was a solution to this, Ben? And before you do that, just in terms of my own perspective, we've been through, I'm sure, what everybody else listening in has been through as well. Email is siloed. You don't know what's coming in and out. We built our own practice management software in our firm a number of years ago, and the number one driver for doing that is that I couldn't find a tool that would let me do things like create tasks from emails. I had 30 staff at the time, and I had no idea what was going out of the business. And yeah, there were document management tools that would capture it, but it was pretty poor. Visibility was poor. And clearly it's too late once the emails have gone anyway. And then we started to get clients sending us private text messages and Facebook messages kind of 5 years ago. And it's like, it's great. We want to be able to communicate with our clients in whatever way we can, but we're exposed because it goes into my Facebook Messenger or whatever. That's personal. And like, how do I get that to the team? And how do we know that they've asked the question? It's all a problem, isn't it? So I mean, hopefully there's some of the reasons that you spotted the opportunity, that there was a solution that needed to be built here. But what else have you seen that's a real pain point?
Absolutely. And I think you touch on something that, if we take just one step back, is totally essential, because the second we're talking about communication or collaboration, it means that we need to find a place for that collaboration to happen where both the accountancy firm and the clients find value, or essentially a place that works for both of both sides. So what's interesting is what we see with emails is that for the accountancy firm, emails theoretically could be a good channel or a good way to interact with their clients, because it's very easy to automate. You can send them by the dozen and track them. But one of the core problem that we see is that clients are generally unresponsive to email. And I think that's even truer, or even more the fact in industries like construction, hospitality, or with sole traders and smaller clients who might be on the road all day, who might be on their phone all day, and who might not have access to an email, or who accessing emails on the go. Even if, even more if there's an Excel spreadsheet attached to an email. When was the last time you opened one of these on your mobile? And so essentially what this tells us is that your clients might know that Facebook or WhatsApp is not ideal for you, but that's still the fastest way for them to get to you, or to give you that information that you need. And so I think what we see is essentially a gap in terms of what works for both sides, because essentially we're both agreeing here that emails don't work and that clients want a live chat app. And essentially what we're doing with Timworks is building the live chat app that works for your clients, but also for the accountancy firm, essentially building it in a way that matches all the specific needs that accountancy firms have. when you talk about email, I think one of the core things that we see is exactly as you said, emails are siloed. So it's very difficult for different team members to have access to different conversations. Because also emails are also very unresponsive on the client side. It's going to eat into your firm's margin because you're going to spend a lot of time chasing clients. And I think that takes us to almost like the core business problems, or the core problem that we see for accountancy firm, is that you're now stuck in a position where you're chasing your clients, which can deteriorate a bit the client relationship, because these are not the best touch points that you wish, probably not the touch points or the type of client interactions that got you into the accountancy profession in the first place, but also obviously results in poor experience, but also because you're stuck in this very menial task. It can prevent you from essentially spending more time on higher value tasks, because we need to be very clear here that it's going to be very difficult for you to upsell and provide additional services to your client if you don't get that quality data in and that regular input from your clients in the first place.
Yeah, I think the point on email is a really interesting one, and I think it's sometimes really easy for accountants to just say clients are really rubbish at responding to emails. But I think, in fairness to the client, there's also a flip side to that, in that the accountant's sometimes really rubbish at responding to client emails. And part of that is about the amount of noise that we get with emails. So with the accounting firms I work with, I regularly say, look, you got to take some of this internal email out of the equation. You've got to remove some of that noise by using tools like Slack and Teams or whatever internally within the business. Because I mean, we've all seen it. You get that email from somebody, or you send an email to somebody in the team or whatever, and you get a reply that just says thanks, and it's like, really, what's the point of that? It just clutters up the email box, creates a load of noise, and we've got to delete it. So it's how do we, and I hear regularly that even in our own firm, my frustration is sometimes when clients are coming to me and saying, hey, well, I haven't had a response, and it's like it's not deliberate, it's just there's so much going on. And emails, if people are anything like me, if you don't respond when it's in that window that you've got, as soon as it drops down, it's like it's gone. It's like a black hole. So how do we reduce some of that noise and make sure that the stuff we've got to focus on is all the important stuff from clients?
And I think you're spot on. And I think one thing that's also very interesting with emails is that there is no way that you can channel the flow of communication from your clients. So you don't have, set conversation or set threads or channels or whatever you want to call it. So if you put yourself in the shoes of your client, who might have a request that they deem urgent, but as a client, every request is always deemed urgent by them. In doubt, they're probably going to add maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 people from your firm to the email, even if 3 of them might be completely irrelevant. And for a firm that's as big as yours, it's very easy to look into the number and see how this can compound and essentially make any of your staff's email inbox a pure nightmare, where they get hundreds of emails a day, of which, it wouldn't be unreasonable to think that maybe 60, 70% of it or 80% of it is noise or completely irrelevant communication. So I think it's really the issue with email is the volume. On the one hand, the lack of responsiveness, and exactly as you said, that sense of having a large volume of messages that might not be relevant, that ultimately make you kind of disenfranchised with your email inbox. And we see a lot of accountants telling us horror stories of they've tried to be in box 0, but it's just not something they can do. So they just bite the bullet and start to navigate an inbox with 4-digit worth of unread emails.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other challenge, of course, is I don't know any firm that sets any protocol around whose responsibility is it to reply. So if you get an email and you've got 5 people CC'd into it, it's like, so who's responsible? Is it the person that the email was addressed to? And is the CC clearly it's for information? but it's like everyone just assumes, well, there's 5 people in that email, I'll let one of them respond. And of course, if everybody does the same thing, you kind of lose it. And again, this was the problems that I encountered in terms of, well, how do we get that visibility, and the importance of almost saying, if we get an email, it needs to become a task. So somebody's got a clearly defined objective to kind of do something with it. And it's fundamentally the problem with email.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think what we see now, or in the way, we describe sadly how our accountancy firms have to use emails, is that they're really on the reactive end. And, it's almost like you cope with client communication instead of really turning client communication into strength, into something that can differentiate your firm, in something that can help you have more higher quality touch points with your client, which I know is something that, you care deeply about. And I think it's what we're aiming to do with Timworks, but more generally, what we think should happen with client communication is that you need to deal with it in an active way, in a way that's decisive, in a way that works for you, and where you essentially design an efficient process and an efficient way for you to do it, instead of treating it as almost, a pain that you have to deal with. Because ultimately, as an accountancy firm, you're a big chunk of the job, or a big share of the job, is being a great account manager almost to your clients.
Yeah, and that's the point I was just going to make. It's like fundamentally the number one priority, the number one measure that any client is going to have in terms of the relationship they have with their accounting firm is how responsive are they. So how quickly do we respond, and do we respond? I mean, that's the first point. Make sure that somebody actually does go back to the client. Then it's the case, how quickly does it happen? And we went through this process of, well, we need to know that people are being responded to. So how do we get visibility of the fact that an email is being responded to? And we do what I'm sure many of the people in the panelist link here have done, in terms of, well, perhaps we'll use a ticketing system. So let's look at a Help Scout or a Zendesk or whatever. But the problem for me with that kind of solution is that it's too impersonal. And like everything that we do is about how do we create really great client experiences. And I kind of feel that if you a ticket, it kind of says something about the client. So that doesn't really work. So we can't do it that way. And we've kind of talked about email. It probably still accounts for the vast majority of communication we get, but we've just spent 10 minutes saying why email doesn't work. So therefore, it's kind of quite understandable that people look to other solutions and help desk systems, Slack. I mean, we've been through a few. FlowDoc has just been kind of pulled. We used FlowDoc many years ago as kind of an early internal chat system, and then we moved to Slack, and now we're using Teams internally. So these options are there. So clearly, if email doesn't work, that's got to be the solution, right, Ben?
Exactly. And that's what we deeply believe. But I just think, because of the needs of the accountancy industry, like there needs to be a product that's specifically made for this industry. And that's where we come in. But I think really what's interesting and what we see happen time and time again, we talk to a lot of accountancy firms in the UK, but also in other markets. And what we see really is that generally the move to live chat or messenger platforms is passive or is reactive. And it's because essentially at the beginning or at the start, a client will ping you on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, try to set up a Slack process with you just because email doesn't work for them. And in many cases, they initiate it. And I think that's essentially a very tricky or very slippery slope for you to go as an accountancy firm, because that means that you essentially give away the control over the workflow, over the process to your clients. And we for something that's as key as a client communication, I think you really need to be decisive and control the way this works. And so I think really like while WhatsApp or Slack can provide a short-term pain, relief to your client communication, is definitely not built for it. And I think, there's a lot of risk that's attached to using WhatsApp specifically for your firm. So that's really something as well to keep in mind.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned the process, and again, process is one of the things I talk about regularly in terms of if as accountants we don't control the process, we can't control the profitability of what we do,
Exactly.
and profitability clearly is fundamental to what we're doing in terms of running businesses that need to be profitable, and it's easy to get into that situation where you let the client dictate the narrative, dictate the process, and we could spend all day talking about all the different ways that clients could communicate to us. The more there are, the greater the risk, the greater the inefficiency, the less profitable we become, the greater the risk that we miss stuff. So we have to think about kind of how do we come up with a solution that lets us say this is our preferred approach, and almost kind of educate clients that this is the best way to communicate with us. But if we take Slack, for example, I mean, what do you see as the challenges of why Slack isn't the right solution here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that first of all, while Slack, can be quite appealing on the surface, I would say that first the penetration of Slack in the SME, more broadly in the SME landscape, is still very, very tiny. So what this means is that if you can use Slack with some of your slightly more tech savvy clients, ultimately the chances that you are going to get to cover all your client base with Slack is very, very small. And then there are different ways that you can potentially, tinker almost or experiment with Slack. One is through Slack Connect, in which you essentially have one channel for each of your clients, which ultimately becomes very messy and very noisy because you have all your team members on your side, all the client point of contacts on the other side, and you have that Sentai thread of messages that can encapsulate bookkeeping queries, VAT returns, everything, and so ultimately it becomes a very messy to navigate. And actually, you might be actually better off with emails, because at least emails provide you with separate conversations. As well, the cost structure of Slack can become very, very expensive if you use the paid version, and if you use the free version, your trial is limited to 10,000 messages, which can quickly become problematic. And client can delete messages, which obviously is not ideal at all. So again, I think Slack can be this short-term painkiller for you, but ultimately it's not something that we would really advise you to use as a scalable, sustainable way to roll out live chat with your client.
Yeah. So if the big challenge for Slack is the lack of people using it, then the next option clearly is, well, everyone uses WhatsApp,
and everyone loves WhatsApp.
That's got to be the solution, right?
Well, yeah, on paper, again, great emojis and ability to send animated GIFs on WhatsApp. So that's great. Not sure how relevant that is for accountancy firms, but really you see some of the same problems with WhatsApp. One of them, and probably the one that should keep us all up at night, is the audit trail, and the fact that messages and conversations can be deleted, not only by you and your team members, but by the client, which can become extremely tricky. There's also a lot of problems that you're going to bump into with the continuity of service, because ultimately, when one of your staff member goes on vacation or leaves the firm, it's going to be very difficult for you to get access to that conversation, to be able to store it, and to be able to provide a continuity of service for that client. So you have no way to swap team members, because we know that the reality of your firm can change. Again, with WhatsApp, one of the issues that you're going to have is that you're very likely to only have one conversation with that client. And so if you multiply that by 80, 100, 200 clients, you have essentially 200 massive threads that cover everything. So we're still in the same problem of not being able to have clarity on the topics or the work streams that are open with these clients. And I think something that I didn't touch on with both WhatsApp and Slack is about integrations. So every input, every information that you get from the client needs to be manually downloaded and then sent or uploaded to Xero, Text, HubDoc, Sage, QuickBooks. So you don't, can become very manual again, keeping in mind that as an accountancy firm, if you roll that out to 80 or 100 clients, you might actually create more mess and more harm than anything else. And so I think, in the way we approach that problem of client communication is, it's very easy to build a product that could work if you have one client on it, because it can scale very well. Everything we need to think about is, how does it work with 100 clients? And how does it work with 100 clients that might create some mess here and there, that might just create conversation over the place? And so I think it's very important that on the one hand, we think about it in a way that provides simplicity and ease of use to your client, but also that protects A, your sanity, and B, your workload, by avoiding having conversations all over the place, which wouldn't be the case on WhatsApp.
Yeah, perfect. So, I mean, we've talked about the challenges of capturing this communication from these other tools, because I think for me, that's fundamentally the issue. And you made the distinction between kind of almost ownership of the repository for the data, because there's always an argument that the data belongs to the firm, but if it's in a personal individual's WhatsApp, then that person goes, you've lost it. It's kind of gone. And there are lots of reasons why we need to capture effectively this communication, isn't there, in terms of managing our own risk, managing our client delivery, and everything else. I think whatever we do, we've got to make sure that we've got ownership of that data, ownership of the repository, but equally the ability to kind of find it again when we need to, because ultimately that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, you don't know until 6 months later that you got a problem with a client and you've got to go back and find the original instruction or whatever it is. So the ability to be able to surface that data remains critical, I guess.
Absolutely, and I think that's absolutely key. That you need to be able to have a neutral that's stored, that is compliant, so stored for at least 6 years, that is usable by you, so that you can export and store as well on a separate platform. But I think almost equally as importantly as that is, the audit trail needs to be navigable. And if I remember vaguely that my client said something in September 2021, it's much easier for me if I have separate conversations, separate work streams that I can refer to and find that message, rather than, again, having that thread with thousands of messages where everything is mixed and try to navigate that and find that one message. I think one thing that we haven't touched on, and I think that quite interestingly, we hear time and time again with the accountancy firms that we work with, is also the impact that using WhatsApp has on your staff. And I think for the firms who've essentially rolled out WhatsApp, or at least reactively embraced WhatsApp, we see a big gap between the way the owner of the firm talks about WhatsApp, essentially minimizing a bit the problems that it has. But then when you go one level down in the firm, you see that people who are actually in the trenches, are very unhappy to have client communication on their personal phones, because that's really not good for work-life balance. You're also at risk of sending that one picture, to the wrong chat, or to send something to the wrong chat, which is obviously not something that is very pleasant. And I think we've even heard, stories of burnout in firms, because people just couldn't take it on the long term to have 20 messages from clients on a Sunday evening, because business owners might be doing their bookkeep or their admin on a Sunday evening, and you're at home texting friends, and you get all this. So you can't really have that separation between work and WhatsApp, and it creates also that sense of false expectation. Because if, as a client, I'm with my dear accountant Will on WhatsApp, and I see that Will is online, and he might be online because he's texting his friends, or he's doing whatever he does when he's not at work, it creates this expectation that Will needs to pick up my query now, which is absolutely wrong, because you might be online again on a Sunday 7 p.m. it doesn't
Yeah.
mean at all that you need to reply to that query that is absolutely not urgent on that Sunday at 7 p.m. And I think that's essential to keep in mind, because we've looked at it through the prism of the firm and the client, but it's really important to keep in mind as well, how people who are dealing with these client queries, who are dealing with this client communication, feel about using these different tools.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Thank you for that, Ben. So we talked about the challenges, we talked about the pain points, we've talked about why it's important to capture this communication. We've talked about why some of the live chat tools that everybody's really familiar with may not work in an accounting firm setting. So clearly, where does Timworks fit in this? What's the solution that you've built? I'm going to hand over to you. I think when we were planning this, I said this is one of those sessions where I think there's real value in you giving an overview of what the product does. So over to you to do that, Ben.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to ask everyone so you should be able to see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
And everyone who's attending, please feel free to pop any question you might have on the chat, on features, future features. I'm going to give you a high-level view of the product. If you have questions or more specific, I'm more than happy to go a bit deeper on some of the features that might be of interest to you. So don't be shy, and yeah, let us know if you have any questions. So what you see on the left is the accountancy firm product. So that's the product that you would be using. And on the right, we'll go to it a bit later. That's the app as it looks for your clients. So let's focus our attention on this side of the screen. So you log in on the platform, and what you see is a list of clients that you've onboarded to Timworks. So it seems that one of our clients, Acupuncture, has unread messages or something that is pointing our attention towards that specific account. So let's go and check it out. So as you can see here, we've now entered the workspace, as we call it, that you have between your team members and the people on your client side, in that case, my client, Alan Acupuncture. So as you can see, I have several different conversations open with these clients. And already a big improvement that we have compared to WhatsApp, as we discussed, is that instead of having, or Slack, instead of having one gigantic thread where everything is mixed, I'm able here to have different conversation in which I can address different topics, different needs, and make sure that I can keep a track of not only all the cloud communications, but have a very precise view as to what's going on with this account. What this allows me to do as well is, again, as compared to WhatsApp, have different team members on my side be part of different conversation. So not everyone needs to be in all the conversation. If I have a payroll specialist in my firm, that's very likely to be the only conversation is in for these clients. I don't need him to be bothered about anything payments related, bookkeeping related, document upload, and so on and so forth. So that gives you really that flexibility, and again, protects your staff sanity to make sure that they only see what they need to see, and that they don't get distracted with unnecessary messages. I think we have a message in the chat. Hi. Good. So here, what's interesting is we have a conversation where, as you can see, we're handling bookkeeping queries. So querying receipts and invoices, asking for missing invoices that we might be needing. Very easy for the client, as we'll see later, to just drag and drop the document in the chat, or use the mobile app to just snap a picture and upload the receipt as I ask for it. One thing that we've touched on that Slack and WhatsApp were critically missing is the integrations that you need with the tools that you use and need on a daily basis. So in that case, we've built the first set of integration with the likes of Text, HubDoc, Auto Entry, and Data Molino, which allow you straight from the chat to upload a document to the relevant client account on HubDoc, on Text, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to juggle between documents. You don't have to store documents unnecessarily on your computer. You just dispatch the information very quickly where it belongs. Yep.
Okay, just a quick question on that. And so you've got, so you're having a conversation generally because it's a missing receipt or something. So you're almost saying to a client, oh, we've got this transaction gone to the bank. We haven't got a receipt for it. Can you send it to us? And they're putting it in Timworks, and we can then just drop it into our Dext account or whatever, process it as normal, and so on. Is a plan to kind of do it the other way? So if you've got something in Dex, for example, that you need to ask a question on, can you kind of pull it across from one platform to the other?
Exactly. So that's exactly the view, really, what we're working quite aggressively on rolling out new integrations. We really see Timworks, and I think it's one of our clients who coined that expression. We see ourselves as the glue that sticks everything together and centralize the communication. And we're building a very open platform that allow you to pull and push data from the rest of your stack without having to go through, Excel exports, screenshots, emails, just so that you can essentially fetch everything straight in the chat.
Fine, excellent.
So watch this space for more integrations coming in the coming weeks and months.
Excellent. And from the client point of view, what's the client seeing here then, Ben?
Yeah, so just very quickly, one thing that I wanted to show on that side, which is quite convenient, is actually I'll show you on the client side, and then we'll move to that. So if we focus now our attention where my cursor is, this is the client tab. So I've tried to replicate the mobile view, which is very likely to be the ones that most of the clients use, but the app is also available on desktop for your clients, obviously. And so what you see here is that your client has obviously the same conversations that he's been invited to, and allows them to very quickly participate in the conversation, upload documents, and so on and so forth. So in that case, there's a need for an HMRC letter that we want the client to upload. So very easily, the client can just upload that document, and then you can do what you have to do with it. One thing is we really want to control the experience and allow you to make sure that the conversations and the communication is channeled and works your way. So we've removed, for instance, the ability for your client to create conversations. So you're completely in control of starting the conversation, managing the conversation with your client. And we really want to avoid, having potentially rogue clients completely spamming you with hundreds of conversations, like sadly they are likely to do on email. So coming back to what we're saying about controlling the experience, it's very important for us that the accountants or the accountancy firm is in the driving seat as to which conversations are created, which conversations are closed, and when they are closed.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about the kind of the CC on the email. So I mean, what we want to do is get away from that noise. So clearly, when clients are not happy, they send me an email, they copy me into an email. So can they do the same thing here? It's like, are we still going to end up with all this blind CC and everything else?
Absolutely not. It's actually exactly the opposite. So as an accountant, so now back to the left screen, I can decide who I invite on both sides. So I can invite who I want on the client side. I can invite who I want on the accountancy firm side. And now what we will see is that as the client, I can only add people on the client side, obviously, because the last thing we want is for the client to escalate everything to the partner of the firm. And then exactly as you say, we reverted back to the exact same issue we were in, which is essentially spamming everyone within the firm.
Yeah.
One thing that's as well is a pretty big improvement according to our users as compared to email is, in that case, assuming that I got the HMRC letter, I had what I need from my client, thank my client for his very quick turnaround. I can archive the conversation, which, as you see, makes the conversation vanish from the list of active conversations that I have with the client. Same on my side, so everyone in the teams know that that conversation has been closed, and that by extension, we had what we need from the client, but I can still reference obviously all the archived conversation that I have with this client, which if we operate with a combination of slightly bigger conversations, but also very small temporary conversation, it makes it very easy for you to go back and find that information, even as you'll have hundreds of conversations with your clients. Again, keeping in mind the fact that the accountancy firm is in the driving seat, the client cannot have a conversation because it's for you to say when the job has been done on that particular query.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. If anybody's got any questions on anything they've seen there, do pop them in the Q&A box. Ben will be more than happy to answer those. Anything else on this, Ben, or do you want to stop sharing and we'll jump back into slides? Anything else you want to show that you think would be useful?
Just one last thing, and I think it's not it's nothing major, but just tends to say a lot about how we're approaching the app and its job to be done to some extent. Is the fact that the app is branded with the accountancy firm's name. That's only the first step in the white labeling options that we're going to provide to accountancy firms. And I think really it's key for us, as much as we love the brand Timworks. Our job here is to make your brand shine and to make the app feel like it's your firm's app, and that it positions you as a firm as a tech-savvy firm, a firm who cares deeply about client experience, and a firm who's not who's at the edge of new solutions. So
yeah. And do you have plans for kind of integration into practice management suites and things like that? Because that's the next kind of obvious iteration, isn't it? How do we surface this? So when we built our practice management, it was all about, we had different tabs. So it's a single client-centric view, and the ability to be able to go in and view Timworks conversations makes a huge amount of sense, of course.
It's we don't like to overpromise, or we don't like to create false expectations, but it's something that we're thinking about a lot.
Yeah, and at the moment, in terms of so I want to go back and I want to find something related to a VAT return 2 quarters ago. What's the process in terms of what it is now, and other plans to kind of enable things like tagging on conversations and stuff like that, because that almost kind of allocating job tags to it. So this is a VAT, this is a payroll, this is an accounts, or whatever.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I think we're going to be rolling out search capabilities in the app later in the year. I think tagging of the conversation as well is something that is going to come. And I think because we're in the on the tagging front, I think one thing that we're thinking about as well, and like it release probably over the summer, is the ability for you to label your clients. So let's say that I could label this client as a hospitality client, this one as a construction client, and so on, to essentially give you the ability to broadcast messages for specific segments of clients. So if there's an update or something that you want to share with your hospitality clients, you will have that ability to have a one-to-many way to address them and really segment the communication. Again, keeping in mind that we're all about giving you that granularity to create meaningful touch points, high quality touch points with your clients.
Perfect. Excellent. And we still don't have any questions. So you've obviously done a cracking job there, Ben, in terms of making that really clear for everybody. So let me just get back to my slides here as we finish up. So do you want to take us through this to kind of wrap up that demo piece, Ben, in terms of kind of why should people be looking at Timworks as an alternative to other chat solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really the reason why I think Timworks is the right solution for accountancy firms, I think it's a no-brainer, but it's because it's been built specifically with the needs of the accountancy firm in mind. So whether within the integrations that we've built and that we're building with the specific roles and permissions that we have both on the client and the accountancy side. Again, we're very, very conscious of the fact that we're handling data that in some cases should not be seen or should not be accessible by just anyone. So that's baked in the product. But I think really keeping in mind as well that the the barrier to change or the friction for you to move your clients from, say, Slack or WhatsApp to Timworks is absolutely minimal, because we've built it in a way where essentially there are two things that you need to get your client to do: is A, download the mobile app, which should be decently easy for them to do, and B, turn on the push notifications, and then you're pretty much set in terms of what your clients needs to do. And so I think that's really important, because we wanted to avoid building a product that either had friction, would require training for your clients, and we've obviously built something where your clients should be able to use it, because they're very familiar with this kind of app. And so I think that's in a nutshell, the reason why I think Timworks is probably a much more sustainable and a much more scalable solution for firms who want to increase the touch points with their client and bring a differentiated and more efficient collaboration process with their clients.
Yeah, perfect, excellent. And in terms of we always like to leave you with some key takeaways. So some of the key points here, and I think the big one for me is that client expectations are changing. They're changing massively, and it's because they're looking at other sectors. They're looking at what do they get when they engage with Amazon. They order something on a Saturday, it arrives on a Sunday. Expectations have shifted so much, and that's overlapping into professional services and what we do. So our clients are looking and asking for faster, more responsive engagement with their accountants. They're digitally native. They're used to using WhatsApp, as Ben said. We need to think about how can we get information from our clients quicker. How can we respond faster to deliver a better experience for our clients, because they're benchmarking us against people in other sectors. They're not just saying, well, my accountant's better than the accountant down the road because they respond in 3 days rather than a week. It's not going to cut it anymore. We have to do more. Ben, client communication is an opportunity to grow, not a cost. This is definitely one of yours. Give us an overview of what you mean there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty as we touched on at the beginning. It's very sad to some extent to see accountancy firm being on the reactive end of the client communication, and really almost like having to cope with client communication, where actually we think that accountancy firm, to the best of their ability, should try to implement ways where A, they control the experience, and B, channel the communication in a way that's efficient for them and allows them to create more touch points with their clients, provide different or additional services to their clients, and really use that as a lever to grow every single client account that they have, instead of being on the receiving end and fighting over whether they reply to messages or not.
Yeah, and these last two fit really nicely together for me. So firstly, every touch point we have with a client has to be high quality. We have to improve the quality of those touch points. We have to improve the frequency of those touch points, because when I talk about client experience, it's the sum total of every client touch point you have, from the first engagement to the last engagement. And we're all accountants, and when we're talking about sums, and it's the total sum, the more we have, the bigger the value, the bigger the sum. So how do we make sure that we have more touch points, and every touch point we has a purpose to it, has a high quality outcome for the client, and gives us an opportunity to shine in what we do to ensure that we're delivering the best possible client experience that we can. So I hope that that's given you some food for thought in terms of what the opportunities are, what the challenges are, and the importance, again, of making sure that we get every client engagement right. We provide a faster, more responsive, more effective service to our clients in everything that we do as a firm. Timworks have put together some special offers for us, so you can get started now. Your first 3 clients will be free forever. Unlimited team member seats, unlimited client seats. You get the mobile app, white labeled app, integrations. The list is growing. Anything you want to add on that piece there, Ben, before we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the offer is of the 3 clients that you get for free is really to help you start seeing the value without having to think about the cost. I think we really see Timworks as a product that should and will have a positive ROI for your firm, and we want to take the cost at the beginning on us to prove you that it can achieve just that. And that's the same logic behind essentially giving you an unlimited number of team members on the seats on your side, and as well for our clients. We don't want you to have to think twice about, which cloud, which team member should be on it. We really want you to unlock the value of it with whoever is relevant. And so that's the idea behind that offer that we're handing out.
Perfect. And how do people take it up, Ben? And if they want to get in contact and ask any questions, given that everybody's too shy to have asked them on the session today, how do they get in touch?
So they can get in touch either with me on LinkedIn if that works, if that's what works the best for them. They can book a demo on the website, which is a very efficient way to get some time with us to get a bit more details in the product and see how it could work with you. Or otherwise, you can reach out to me directly over email at ben@timworks.com or hello@timworks.com.
Great. And you're also going to be visible at a number of accounting events coming up over the coming months. So do drop by and talk to the Timworks team, Accountex and Digital Accounts Show and Xerocom.
That's exactly right. I would have given you my personal WhatsApp number so you can reach out to me there, but I probably like to mix my personal WhatsApp with work. So I'm that kind of guy.
We'd never have guessed it. Excellent. So thank you ever so much indeed, Ben, for joining us today. Thank you to everybody else that's joined us live. If you're watching the recording, I hope it's been useful for you as well. We will circulate a recording of today's session to everybody that attended and everybody that registered and couldn't make it live today. But I hope it's been useful. Enjoy the events we have coming up over the coming months. And thanks again, Ben and your team for all your effort on today's webinar. So thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you all again soon.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye.
Thanks again. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.